Aditya Kashyap was a man lost. He walked through life like a ghost. His world was once full of color. Now it was just shades of gray. Business deals meant nothing. Success felt empty. His heart carried a heavy burden. A love lost. A future stolen. He felt the cold seep into his bones. Every morning was a struggle. Every night brought no peace. He was a ship without a rudder. Adrift in an ocean of sorrow. His reflection in the mirror was a stranger. A hollow shell of the man he used to be. He wanted to disappear, to simply cease to exist. His days were a blur of meetings, empty handshakes and forced smiles. The empire his father built felt like a cage. A golden cage, but a cage nonetheless. He remembered a time when he had dreams, big dreams full of passion and fire. Now those dreams were ashes, scattered by the winds of betrayal and loss. He found no joy in his achievements. The applause of the boardroom sounded distant, like echoes from a life that wasn't his. He often stared out his office window, watching the city move while he stood still, trapped in a moment of unending pain. The silence of his large empty apartment was deafening. It amplified his loneliness. Every object in the room held a memory, a painful reminder of what he had lost. He would walk from room to room, searching for something he couldn't name, perhaps a piece of himself, or maybe just an escape from his thoughts. Sleep offered little comfort. His dreams were haunted by her face, the face of the woman who had left him, taking with her all the light from his world. He felt utterly and completely broken. He decided to run, not towards anything, but away from everything, away from the memories, away from the expectations, away from the crushing weight of his own despair. He walked out of his office, left his car, his phone, his identity behind. He boarded a train. Any train. It didn't matter where it was going. All that mattered was that it was moving, taking him away from the life that suffocated him. He hoped the rhythm of the tracks, the changing scenery, would somehow dull the ache in his soul. But a part of him knew, you can't run away from yourself. The train compartment was dim. Aditya slumped by the window. He watched the world pass by, a blur of green and brown. Then a voice cut through his gloom, bright, cheerful, and full of life. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" He looked up. A young woman stood there. Her eyes sparkled with an infectious energy. Her smile was wide and genuine. She was a whirlwind of color, a stark contrast to his monochrome existence. Her name was Geet Dillon, and she talked. A lot. Geet was a force of nature. She spoke without a filter. Her words tumbled out, one after another. She talked about her family, her home in Bathinda, her plans to elope with her boyfriend, Anshuman. Aditya tried to ignore her, to retreat back into his shell. But Geet was persistent. She saw his sadness, and she seemed determined to chip away at it. She shared her snacks with him. She told him stories. Silly stories. Funny stories. Stories that made him almost smile. He hadn't almost smiled in a long time. Aditya found her exhausting, and yet, strangely comforting. Her boundless optimism was a foreign concept. He had forgotten such pure joy existed. Geet didn't seem to notice his coldness, or perhaps she chose to ignore it. She treated him like an old friend, someone she could share her deepest secrets with. Even her plan to run away from home, to marry the man she loved, against her family's wishes. Aditya listened, mostly in silence. He was a reluctant audience. To her dramatic, colorful life story, he wondered if she was naive, or just incredibly brave. As the train chugged along, Geet's presence began to feel less intrusive, more like a gentle nudge, a reminder that life continued, that there was still light in the world, even if he couldn't see it himself. She asked him his name. He hesitated, then told her. Aditya. She repeated it with a flourish, as if it were the most interesting name she had ever heard. He felt a tiny crack in the wall around his heart, just a tiny one. But it was a start he didn't even know he needed. He still wanted to be alone, but maybe, just maybe her company wasn't so bad after all. Geet was impulsive. Aditya was methodical. It was a recipe for chaos. When Geet got off the train at a station to buy water, Aditya was deep in his thoughts. The train started moving. Geet ran, panicked. Aditya, in a moment of uncharacteristic concern, got off to help her. Only to see her board another carriage, leaving him stranded, on a deserted platform, with no luggage, no money, no phone, just the clothes on his back, and a growing sense of disbelief. This was not part of his plan to escape. This was something else entirely. He was furious, at her carelessness, at his own foolishness for getting off. But Geet, ever resourceful, found him. She had convinced the station master to announce his presence. She was apologetic, but also found the situation incredibly funny. Aditya did not share her amusement. He was stuck with this chatterbox, this walking, talking disaster. They had missed their train, their original train, the one that was supposed to take Geet to her love, and Aditya to, well, he didn't know where. Now they were just stuck, together. Their journey to reach Geet's destination became an adventure, a series of mishaps and misadventures. They took buses, hired taxis, even rode on the top of a truck. Geet treated every obstacle as a new game. Aditya saw them as further proof that the universe was conspiring against him. Yet through the chaos, something shifted. He found himself observing her, her ability to find joy in the simplest things, her unwavering faith that everything would work out. He even found himself, dare he say it, laughing, a real laugh. It felt strange, alien, but good. They checked into a shady hotel, Hotel Decent it was called. It was anything but. Geet, unfazed, tried to make the best of it. She even tried to teach Aditya how to be more spontaneous, to flush his ex down the toilet, literally. By burning her photo and flushing the ashes. Aditya thought it was ridiculous, but he played along. A small part of him felt lighter, as if a tiny piece of his burden had indeed been flushed away. The journey was chaotic. It was unplanned. It was utterly frustrating. But it was also, unexpectedly, a little bit fun. He wouldn't admit it though, not yet. The days with Geet were a whirlwind. Aditya had never met anyone like her. She lived life at full volume. Her energy was relentless. He found himself slowly being pulled into her orbit. He was still quiet, still reserved, but the heavy cloud above him seemed to lift, just a little. He started to notice the world around him again. The vibrant colors of the countryside, the taste of local food, the smiles of strangers. Things he had been blind to for so long. Geet's presence was like a constant, gentle reminder that life could be beautiful if you only chose to see it. He began to talk more. Not much, but more. He even shared a little about his past, his failed business, his lost love. Geet listened patiently. She didn't offer platitudes or empty advice, she just listened, and somehow that was exactly what he needed. He saw her interact with people, with an openness and warmth that disarmed everyone. She made friends easily. She found good in everyone. Aditya watched her, fascinated. He had built walls so high around himself. Geet seemed to have no walls at all, or if she did, they were made of sunshine. There were moments of quiet too, between the chaos and the chatter, moments when they would sit in silence, watching the landscape change. In those moments, Aditya felt a strange sense of peace, a peace he hadn't felt in years. He was still a long way from being happy, but he wasn't drowning anymore. Geet had thrown him a lifeline, a brightly colored, albeit noisy lifeline. He started to see her not just as an irritant, but as a person, a flawed, vibrant, incredibly alive person. He even started to care about her crazy plan, to run away and marry Anshuman, one evening under a sky full of stars. Geet talked about her dreams, her simple, heartfelt dreams, of a life full of love and laughter. Aditya listened, and for the first time he didn't feel cynical. He felt a pang of something else. Maybe it was hope, or maybe it was just the effect of Geet's infectious optimism. He found himself wanting her to be happy. He wanted her dreams to come true. This feeling was new, this concern for someone else's happiness. It was a subtle shift, a whisper of change, but it was there. The armor around his heart was cracking. Section 5 Miles and Memories, New Bonds on Winding Roads. Their journey continued, a patchwork of unexpected stops. Each town, each village, brought new experiences, and new people into their temporary orbit. Geet, with her open heart, would strike up conversations, with fellow travelers, with shopkeepers, with children playing on the streets. Aditya, initially a silent observer, found himself drawn into these interactions. He saw kindness in strangers. He heard stories of resilience. He witnessed small acts of generosity. These encounters were pebbles dropped into the still waters of his soul, creating ripples of awareness that the world was bigger than his pain. They missed connections, not just trains, but also signals. Aditya started to enjoy Geet's company more than he would admit. Her presence was a constant, a vibrant thread in the drab tapestry of his recent life. He found himself anticipating her next outrageous statement, her next burst of song. He even started to participate in her silliness just a little. He helped her bargain with a taxi driver. He shared a joke that actually made her laugh. These small moments were building something, a connection he hadn't sought, but one that was becoming increasingly important to him. New friendships were forged in unlikely places. An old couple on a bus shared their life story. A group of musicians at a roadside dhaba played songs for them. Geet, of course, danced, and to his own surprise, Aditya found his foot tapping to the rhythm. He was slowly learning to let go, to live in the moment. A concept Geet embodied effortlessly. He saw how she connected with people, how she brought smiles to their faces. He realized he had forgotten how to connect, how to truly see others. Geet was teaching him, without even trying. The destination, Manali, where Geet's love Anshuman awaited, was drawing closer. Aditya felt a strange mix of emotions, relief that this chaotic journey would soon end, and a surprising reluctance to part ways with Geet. He had grown accustomed to her presence, her constant chatter, her unwavering optimism. He knew he had to return to his old life, to face his responsibilities, but something had changed within him. The world didn't seem so gray anymore. There were patches of color, thanks to the girl from Patinda, who had crashed into his life and turned it upside down, in the best possible way. Section 6. The silence after the song, Geet's heartbreak. They finally reached Manali. The crisp mountain air felt different. Aditya helped Geet find Anshuman. He watched from a distance as she ran towards her supposed love, her face alight with joy and anticipation. He felt a pang, a strange mix of happiness for her, and a sense of his own impending loneliness. He had delivered her to her destiny, his job was done. He turned to leave, ready to fade back into his own world. But life, as it often does, had other plans. Anshuman was not what Geet had imagined, or perhaps he was not ready for her grand love. The news came like a sudden storm. Anshuman had rejected Geet. He didn't want to marry her. Not like this, not with her family against it. Geet's world shattered. The vibrant, talkative girl fell silent. Her laughter died. Her eyes lost their sparkle. The boundless optimism that had defined her crumbled into dust. Aditya found her sitting alone, a broken doll. Her dreams lay shattered at her feet. The girl who had pulled him out of his despair was now lost in her own. It was a cruel twist of fate. He had never seen her so vulnerable, so utterly defeated. Aditya didn't know what to do. He was not good with emotions, especially not someone else's. But he couldn't leave her like this. The Geet he knew, the one who sang off-key songs, the one who found joy in everything, was gone, replaced by a shadow. He sat with her in silence, offering a presence, not knowing if it was enough. He remembered how she had barged into his life, how she had relentlessly chipped away at his defenses. Now the roles were reversed. She was the one in need and he was the only one there. He tried to talk to her, to offer comfort, but his words felt inadequate, empty. How do you mend a broken heart, especially one that beat so fiercely for love? He saw his own past pain reflected in her eyes. The pain of rejection, the sting of unrequited dreams. He understood her despair more than she knew. The journey had brought them this far, only to lead her to this heartbreak. Aditya felt a surge of anger towards Anshuman, towards a world that could be so cruel, but mostly he felt a deep, aching sympathy for Geet. The music in her life had faded, and the silence was deafening. Section 7. A different kind of strength, Aditya's turn to support. Aditya knew he couldn't fix Geet's broken heart, but he couldn't abandon her either. He had seen her at her brightest. Now he saw her at her lowest. He decided to stay, to be the support she unknowingly had been for him. He took her back to Bathinda, to her family. It was a difficult journey. Geet was a ghost of her former self, silent, withdrawn, lost in her sorrow. Aditya handled everything, the tickets, the logistics. He shielded her from prying eyes. He spoke for her when she couldn't. He found a strength he didn't know he possessed. A quiet, steady strength. Facing Geet's family was daunting. They were angry, confused, worried. Aditya explained the situation as gently as he could. He took the blame. He protected Geet. He saw the disappointment in her parents' eyes, but also their love for their daughter. He stayed with them for a few days, trying to help Geet navigate the storm of her emotions. He encouraged her to talk, to cry, to let it all out. He listened, just as she had listened to him. He didn't offer easy solutions. He just offered his presence, his unwavering support. He was learning to care deeply. He remembered Geet's words, her philosophies on life, her infectious optimism. He tried to remind her of them, gently, not to preach, but to help her find her way back to that spark that made her Geet. He told her stories about his own struggles, about how her presence had helped him. He shared his vulnerabilities, hoping it would make her feel less alone. It was a slow process. There were no quick fixes for a heart so deeply wounded, but he saw small glimmers, a flicker of her old self, in a fleeting smile or a brief moment of connection. Aditya realized that helping Geet was also helping himself. It gave him a purpose, a focus beyond his own past miseries. He was no longer the broken businessman running away from life. He was someone who could make a difference, someone who could offer comfort. He was rediscovering parts of himself he thought were lost forever. Compassion, empathy, resilience. Geet's pain was immense. But in trying to heal her, Aditya was also healing himself. He was no longer just running, he was standing firm, for her, and in doing so, for himself. The journey had truly transformed them both. Section 8. Rebuilding Worlds. Aditya's Rise and Geet's Glimmer of Hope. After ensuring Geet was relatively stable with her family, Aditya returned to his own life. But he was a changed man. The gray fog had lifted. He saw opportunities where he once saw obstacles. Inspired by Geet's fearless approach to life, even before her heartbreak, he tackled his business with renewed vigor. He made bold decisions. He reconnected with his colleagues. He found joy in his work again. The passion he thought was dead reignited. His company, which had been struggling, began to thrive. He was no longer just managing an empire. He was building something new, something meaningful. He kept in touch with Geet's family, checking in on her. He learned that she was still struggling, but she was trying. She had started working at her uncle's school, teaching children. It was a small step, but it was a step forward. Aditya felt a quiet pride. He knew the old Geet was still in there somewhere, buried under layers of pain. He sent her messages occasionally, light, cheerful messages, reminders of their crazy journey, hoping to coax a smile, hoping to remind her of the joy she once embodied and had shared so generously with him. His professional success felt different this time. It wasn't empty, because it was fueled by a new perspective, a perspective shaped by Geet. He understood that success wasn't just about profits. It was about creating value, about making a positive impact. He even started a foundation to help young entrepreneurs with bold ideas, an idea that sparked from Geet's own uninhibited spirit. He was no longer just Aditya Kashyap, the businessman. He was Aditya Kashyap, the man who had found his way back. Thanks to a girl named Geet, he owed her more than he could ever repay. One day, he decided to visit Bathinda. He had a business proposal for Geet's family, a project that would benefit the local community, but his real reason was to see Geet, to see if he could help her rediscover her lost joy. He found her in the school playground surrounded by children. She looked subdued, quieter, but there was a gentle warmth in her eyes as she interacted with the kids. A glimmer of the old Geet. He approached her cautiously, not wanting to push, just wanting to offer his friendship, his support. The journey wasn't over, not for either of them. Section 9. Destiny's Design, Two Hearts, One Beat. Aditya spent time with Geet. He didn't try to force her to be happy. He just shared his life with her, his newfound enthusiasm, his projects. He talked about the lessons he had learned, many of them, from her. He made her laugh, a genuine, heartwarming laugh. It was like watching a flower slowly unfurl. He took her on small adventures, revisiting places from their chaotic journey, reminding her of the fun they had, the absurdity of it all. Slowly, painstakingly, Geet began to heal. She started to see the world in color again, through his eyes and through her own returning strength. He helped her realize that Anshuman was a chapter, not her whole story, that her worth wasn't tied to one person's rejection. He showed her that her spirit, her unique, vibrant energy, was a gift she needed to share with the world again. He encouraged her to pursue her own dreams, not the ones she had built around someone else, but her own, authentic passions. Geet started to sing again, to dance, to talk incessantly. The old Geet was returning, stronger, wiser, tempered by her pain, but still undeniably Geet. And Aditya found himself falling in love with this incredible, resilient woman. It wasn't a dramatic declaration, it was a quiet realization, a comfortable understanding, that their journey together was meant to be. They had saved each other in different ways at different times. Their connection was forged in chaos, tempered by heartbreak, and strengthened by mutual support. Aditya, the broken businessman, had found his purpose, and Geet, the heartbroken dreamer, had rediscovered her joy, with him by her side. He proposed to her, not with a grand gesture, but with a simple heartfelt promise, to always be there, to cherish her, to share a life full of laughter and yes, even a little bit of chaos. Geet said yes, her eyes sparkling with tears of joy. This time it was a love born not of impulsive fantasy, but of deep understanding and mutual respect. Their families rejoiced, their friends celebrated. Two souls who had met by chance on a train had found their way to each other. Through a series of unplanned detours, missed connections, and shared vulnerabilities, their journey was a testament to the transformative power of human connection, of love, of friendship. They had not just found love in each other, they had found themselves, and together, they were ready for whatever adventures life had in store. Their happily ever after had just begun.